at the Terry O'Neill Comic Con with Grant Geissman, EC Comics historian, musician. Okay, tell us about moving from DC Comics superheroes to that crazy EC stuff.
The first sort of EC stuff I ever saw really was Mad Magazine, which some kids turned me on to when I was like 8 years old. And I couldn't believe that such a magazine existed. I was like, where do you get this? And it's like, just go to the drugstore, you know? And I'm like, they would sell this to me? And they're like, yeah, you know, just... And then I was also buying, you know, Superman, Batman, World's Finest, Justice League, early 60s, you know, that was the stuff I was buying initially. And then at the end of 64, I was also buying Mad paperbacks and, you know, and right next to the Mad paperbacks at this bookstore I went to, I saw this little paperback, Tales from the Crypt, released by Ballantine at the end of 64. And I picked it up and I recognized some of the artists from Mad and I was like, oh, this is connected somehow. And, you know, the stories just blew me away because it was nothing like Superman's imaginary tale, he might marry Lois Lane and stuff like that. It was just like a whole other level of comics and, you know, it was just like, what is this? Yeah. And then there was like 5 of them, you know, over the next year or so. Maybe about a year after that, a friend of mine had a brother who was into comics and he had a bunch of comics fanzines, like Ditto early stuff. I told him I was into Mad and I wanted to get early issues in there. They said, well, there's this guy Howard Rogowski in New York. You could send for a price list. They said his prices are high, but you know, they would have Mad #1 and stuff. So in 67, I would have been like 14, I guess. I sent off $15 for Mad #1. And so I started buying Mads from Howard Rogowski. And one time I ordered a Mad and he wrote back, that's been sold out, but you have a credit and you can order anything you want. So just sight unseen, I ordered Vault of Horror number 32 from him. And that came and then that was it, you know. And that's still one of my favorite EC comics.
Johnny Craig, I think, is my #1 because it was almost like a commentary on like domestic America and maybe some weird undercurrent going on underneath of it. And I think he just had a great way of drawing that, as opposed to like Ingalls, where there's kind of a scariness to every panel. What was it about the EC stuff, tainted meat and all sorts of crazy stuff going on, that you just found, you as a child just found interesting?
I mean, the artwork was incredible, even seen small size in those little paperbacks. And like I say, the stories were just so much more sophisticated than Superman or Batman or, you know, imaginary tales and stuff like that. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it other than to say it was the next level of comic storytelling that I had never experienced in the stuff that I was reading. Even the Marvel stuff didn't have that same, like, an eye for an eye, you know, someone is wronged and comes back from the grave to exact revenge. There was nothing like that in comics that you would buy on the newsstands at that time.
There's something about the just desserts that we can't help but kind of like some of that stuff.
You have to root for the bad guy. He's coming back to get his, you know?